Disney's treasure is not its streaming service. In fact, the platform itself has accumulated losses of almost $10 billion over the past 6 years.
The company's true economic secret lies in this drawing that Walt Disney himself made back in 1957.
When we finish analyzing it, we will understand why Disney currently resembles MSC and Marriott more than Netflix. Welcome to Moat Seek Business, the channel where we discover how the world's most relevant companies make money. If we return to the diagram, we'll notice that what is at the center of everything is the creative studio and the films. So let's start there. The reality is that there would be no business without them. These play an essential role to create that emotional connection with the audience, which will be invaluable over time. Woody, Mater, Mike Wazowski, Iron Man, Elsa, and many other characters are the raw material for everything we're about to see. Obviously, revenue is also generated directly through ticket sales at movie theaters. Zootopia 2, for example, has grossed $1,656 million at the time of recording this video. This positions it as the third highest grossing animated film in history, only behind Nessa 2 and Inside Out 2. The top 10 is completed by The Lion King, Frozen 2, Super Mario Bros., Frozen 1, Incredibles 2, Minions, and Toy Story 4. It's interesting to note that of the 10 we mentioned, 7 belong to Disney. Without that dominance and incredible ability to tell good stories, nothing of what we're about to see makes sense. Given such figures, one might think that animated films are the best business in the world. Well, not necessarily. In the first place, because those figures don't go directly to the companies that produce them. Nearly half of that amount remains in the hands of the cinemas themselves. Additionally, obviously, we must consider the costs of carrying out such a proposal. A movie like Inside Out 2, for example, required no less than $200 million, plus another $150 million that would have been allocated to promote it during its release. That is $350 million in total. To know if a movie ended up being profitable or not, in the industry there's a general rule, the 2.5 rule. If the box office revenue exceeds its total cost by 2.5 times, then the numbers will have been positive. In the case of Inside Out 2, for example, the nearly $1.7 billion generated represent 4.86 times the expense, so this time it turned out incredibly well. Although it's clear we were talking about one of history's biggest hits, if we look at the numbers for Elio, another Pixar film, the situation is quite different. With costs close to $200 million between production and promotion, the box office generated barely $154 million. Therefore, considering the percentage kept by cinemas, the company didn't receive even half of what it invested in that release. Each project risks losing a significant amount of money. Just 2 or 3 bad films can drive an entire studio into bankruptcy. Unless, of course, you're Disney and you're not solely dedicated to producing those kinds of movies. To continue unraveling that intricate map Walt created more than 60 years ago, I propose we use Frozen as a prime example. The first film was released in 2013 and became a massive hit. It generated a box office of $1,269 million, representing the highest for any animated film up to that moment. After such a massive success, what any other company in the industry would have done was open a couple of wine bottles, celebrate, and then move on to think about their next film. That was not the case for Disney. For them, a good reception at the cinema is merely the first step. That's when they start to deploy their incredible machinery. The next phase involves licensed products, backpacks, clothes, accessories, and an endless array of options tailored for every fan of, in this case, Frozen. The year following its launch, in the United States alone, over 3 million Anna and Elsa dresses would have been shipped. Economically, the global revenue from merchandising would have reached $5 billion. That's more than triple what the box office represented in cinemas. It's worth pointing out that Disney only gets a small percentage of this, as it usually sells the license for third parties to handle production and distribution. Just imagine what it would take to coordinate the logistics of millions and millions of products globally. The company's real big earnings come from the parks, the shows, and all the experiences they operate themselves. For Frozen, believe me, they used heavy artillery. In 2016, 3 years after its launch, the Frozen attractions opened at Epcot Park, inside Disney World. Every year, approximately 12 million people purchase tickets and go to see Elsa and company. Regarding events, in 2014, Frozen on Ice premiered, one of the most profitable tours in a long time. In 2018, the Broadway musical followed, an initiative that performed 825 shows before the pandemic. The best part of all this is that it's not just about monetizing the affection the film generated. It's also a great way to continue strengthening that bond between the audience and the characters. Imagine how someone who saw the movie must feel. They loved it, bought absolutely everything related to it, and even had the opportunity to visit the theme park attractions. The ground becomes incredibly fertile for what would come in 2019, Frozen 2. Incredibly, though expected given Disney's structure, this sequel grossed $1.451 billion at the box office, displacing its predecessor as the most lucrative to date. Then, of course, a new wave of experiences arrived. In 2023, World of Frozen opened at the Hong Kong location. In June of 2024, Frozen Kingdom did the same in Tokyo, and Paris is also expected to get its own World of Frozen in 2026. It's absolutely mad. And it continues because the company also has cruises and hotels. The Disney Wish ship launched its first theatrical-themed restaurant, set entirely in Arendelle. The other ships also feature Frozen Days, where the entire cruise adopts this theme. As for accommodations, you can rent entire suites that are themed to this story. I don't even want to imagine what could happen when Frozen 3 premieres in 2027. Now, narratively, this sounds excellent, but what are the numbers really like? Is Disney World actually more relevant than Disney Plus, where hundreds of millions connect daily for news, sports, and all other content? Let's see. To get the complete picture, we need to incorporate not just their streaming platforms, but also the more traditional television channels. And, as we said, the sports segment. Currently, the company is divided into 3 segments: entertainment, sports, and experiences. The first of these refers to all content, and it generated $42 billion in 2025, representing 45% of the total. Within that, we have the traditional television channels, ABC, Disney Channel, for example, the streaming platforms such as Disney Plus and Hulu, which accounted for the majority with 58%, and finally what they refer to as content sales and licensing, representing the remaining 20%. As you can clearly see, Disney Plus and the rest of streaming are certainly not insignificant. In fact, no other business within the company experienced such significant growth. The problem, however, is that as of today, its operating profit margin stands at a mere 5%. The company retains practically nothing from what it generates. We will soon see how this compares to other areas. It is important to highlight that these new platforms will be a powerful tool to boost the company's other businesses. For example, you could watch the movie Cars, get excited about visiting the theme park, and without ever leaving the app, buy the tickets. The company's second major pillar is sports. Thanks to ESPN subscribers and other minor additions, in 2025, Disney generated $17.7 billion from this segment, representing 19% of the total. Finally, and here's where the magic is, we come to the experiences we've been talking so much about. Parks, cruises, hotels, food, beverages, and products, all of that is included in this segment. This segment generated $36.2 billion, representing another 38% of the revenue. If you want to check the sources for this video, don't worry. We've put everything in a document. You can find all the links right now in the description down below. Just click there to see exactly where we got all the info. Going back to the full Disney chart, you're probably thinking that the entertainment portion represents a larger percentage than the experiences, so how can we say it's less important? Well, because a company's value isn't in its revenue, but in its profit, meaning the amount of money it's left with after covering all expenses. And in that regard, the difference in favor of the parks is overwhelming. If we look at the operating profits of the 3 segments we mentioned earlier, we'll notice that of the $17.5 billion they achieved in 2025, 57% came from experiences, more than half. Entertainment, however, contributed only 27%, leaving the remaining 16% to sports. Disney Plus generates a lot of money, yes, but the real business is at Disney World. That's why the company is currently undergoing one of the largest investment processes in its history concerning this segment. In 2023, they announced they would allocate $60 billion over the next 10 years to expand their experiences. This figure represents practically double that of the previous decade, and the results are already beginning to show. As of 2022, Disney had only 4 operational cruise ships, with 2 inaugurated during the 90s and the other 2 during the 2000s. It currently has 8 and expects to reach 13 by 2031. Believe me, having so many ships sailing around the world is no small feat. Companies entirely dedicated to this business, like Norwegian or Royal Caribbean, don't even reach 30. It's as if Disney has a cruise company within another that seems to be simply about movies and series. As far as accommodation is concerned, as of today, there are approximately 40 hotels located within their parks, offering more than 30,000 rooms in total. This figure is even higher than what the entire Four Seasons chain possesses across the globe. Absolutely insane. When it comes to attractions, Bob Iger, the company's CEO, announced they have nearly 1,000 acres of land ready for construction. In such a vast space, they could develop up to 7 theme parks the same size as those at Disney California. In fact, they are already moving forward with the fabrications. The Magic Kingdom area in Florida will have the largest expansion in its history, with the addition of the themed areas Villain Land and Cars. In Paris, something similar is happening with the already mentioned World of Frozen. Perhaps the most significant news of recent months was the announcement of a new theme park located in Abu Dhabi. It is expected to be ready by the early 2000s and 30s, representing the 7th on the list and its major entry into the Middle East. In this way, Disney seeks to further solidify its position as the company that best monetizes that emotional connection we have with the characters. As long as they keep producing films with great stories, parks, cruises, and hotels will continue to see an increase in demand. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with 3 people for good luck. See you next time.